The woman dragged the pine log uphill alone. Jacob Morgan watched from his horse on the ridge, the late October wind biting through his coat, teasing at the collar as if warning him off. The log was full length, rough-hewn and heavy enough that 2 men would have cursed hauling it. She carried it steadily, rope slung over her shoulder, boots gripping the rocky soil, her faded calico dress streaked with mud up to her knees. Most women would have quit an hour ago. He nudged his horse down the slope, boots crunching against scattered stones. The half-built cabin came into view, walls barely reaching chest height, roof absent, tools and cut timber littered around. A canvas tent sagged nearby, smoke curling lazily from a meager fire pit. She heard him before he called out, straightened abruptly, chest heaving, but didn't retreat, didn't raise a hand for help. She simply stood, chin lifted, eyes steady on him as he approached. "Afternoon," Jacob said when he dismounted. "That's a lot of cabin for one person. Don't need charity from strangers." Her voice replied, steady but wary, hands clutching the rope like it might become a weapon. He walked closer, scanning the walls. "Roof won't hold without proper bracing. Storm's coming in 2 weeks, maybe less." "I'll manage," she said, tone clipped. But her shoulders tensed as he looked her over. Jacob's gaze lingered, finally noting the long scar that ran from her left temple down to her jawline, pale against weathered skin. "Burns," he guessed aloud. Her shoulders stiffened. "I'm not pretty," she whispered, a defensive mantra, clearly repeated many times before. "That's fine," he replied evenly. "I need honest, not fancy. Winter kills pretty folk first out here." Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, suspicion of kindness. "Why would you help me?" she asked quietly. "Because I'm tired of liars and nice dresses," he said. He picked up her hammer, weighing it in his hand. The handle was wrapped in strips of cloth for smaller grip. "You got nails?" She hesitated, then nodded toward a crate. "I can pay with labor. I cook, I mend." "Fair enough," he said. He moved to the nearest wall, inspecting the joints. "What's your name?" "Clara Brennan." "Jacob Morgan. I run cattle 3 miles south." He glanced at the sky, clouds thick, light fading fast. "We start tomorrow at first light." She watched him disappear into the pines, then dropped onto a stump, hands trembling. First snow in 2 weeks. First hope in 6 months. She wasn't sure which frightened her more. The next afternoon, Jacob crouched by her fire, examining her tools while she boiled coffee in a dented pot. Every detail, the hammer handle, the sorted nails, the stacks of lumber spoke of careful planning. A mind used to thinking ahead. "You do good work," he said. "Taught myself," she replied, handing him a tin cup. "After my husband died." He sipped bitter coffee, Cowboy strong. "Town's got a lot of widows. Why buy land alone out here?" Clara's jaw tightened. "Merchant in town wanted me. After Thomas passed, said I needed a man's protection. I refused. Rumors started. Cursed woman. Witch who burned her own house down." Jacob waited silently, letting her speak. "Fire started during a fight," she continued, voice flat. "Lamp broke. I tried to pull him out. He hit me into the flames. I got free. He didn't. I touched my scar unconsciously. Town buried him a hero, and me alive with gossip. So you bought this claim with everything I had left. Figured if I'm alone, might as well be on my own terms." She looked at him, direct and unwavering. "What about you? Ranch that size, wife, sons even?" Jacob set down his cup. Had a wife, Sarah, beautiful, everyone adored her. She wanted town life, parties, dances, admiration. Ranch boarder. He paused. She died 2 years back. Childbirth. Baby didn't make it. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "Don't be. I loved her but didn't like her much at the end. She didn't like me either. Town widows circle me now like buzzards. All performance, no help. I'm drowning in women who want to be Mrs. Morgan, not partners." Clara studied him, understanding settling in. "So this arrangement is practical." Jacob nodded. "You need help before winter. I need meals and mending. Nobody needs to make it more complicated." "Agreed." They shook hands, her grip firm, honest, matching his own. He noticed she didn't look away. "We'll start on the roof frame tomorrow," he said, mounting his horse. Clara watched him until the trees swallowed him. Then she returned to her half-built cabin. Something unfamiliar stirred. Hope, dangerous, but maybe worth it once. 1 week later, snow began to fall. Clara measured boards while Jacob sawed, their breaths fogging in the frigid November air. The cabin walls stood complete, the roof frame half finished. They worked silently, a rhythm forming through days of shared labor. "Hold this steady," Jacob said, lifting a beam. She braced it. He hammered. Snow dusted their shoulders, melting against their necks. Thomas used to drink, Clara said suddenly, voice soft. Started after we lost our first baby. Got mean when he drank. Jacob hammered steadily, listening. That night, he came home drunk. Yelled about cold supper, uselessness. Knocked the lamp over. I tried to save him, she whispered. Even after everything I tried, the fire. Town decided I must have wanted him dead. Easier to blame the scarred woman than admit the church deacon beat his wife. Jacob set down the hammer. My wife wanted everything I couldn't give her. Status, excitement. I knew she was unhappy, but kept hoping the ranch would be enough. He looked at the mountains when she died. First thought, I'm free. Been hating myself ever since. Maybe God gives what we can't keep so we learn what we actually need. Maybe, Clara said quietly. Or maybe God's just quieter than preachers claim, Jacob replied. The snow thickened, wind picking up. Jacob squinted. We need to stop. Blizzard coming. You should go before it worsens. Too late, she said. He secured the tarp over the unfinished roof. I'm staying the night. Clara's face went blank. One blanket. We'll manage. The storm howled outside. They sat close by the fire inside the half-finished cabin, sharing the blanket. Not touching, but warmth brushed against each other. Clara pulled a water-stained book from her pack. Do you read? Barely, Jacob admitted. I could teach you, she offered. I'd like that. She opened to a marked page, reading aloud Homer's Odyssey. Penelope waiting for Odysseus. Her voice soft, clear, alive. Jacob listened like a starving man. By midnight, she drifted against his shoulder. He froze, afraid to wake her. At dawn, she stirred, eyes met. Neither spoke, neither pulled away. Jacob's gaze shifted to the doorway, no door yet. Horse tracks in the snow, fresh. Someone circled the cabin. 3 men led by Preacher Whitmore approached. Jacob stepped beside Clara, silent, protective. Town had come calling. 2 weeks later, the cabin was nearly complete. Door hung, window sealed, chimney drawing smoke. Clara plastered gaps as Jacob fitted shutters. He hummed first music in this silent place. Rhythm established. Conversations deepened beyond survival. You mentioned reading, Jacob said. What else you got? Clara produced Shakespeare, Whitman, Warren Bible. Survivors of the Fire. Read to me again tonight, if you'll help me understand cattle accounts. I'm good with numbers. A messenger arrived with supplies. A note pinned to the sack. Offer still stands. Honest work for honest woman. Leave the arrangement. Jacob crumpled it. Pritchard, merchant. Clara's voice quiet. The one who wanted me. She read aloud by firelight that evening. Her voice turned Penelope's suitor pompous. Jacob laughed, genuine, deep, surprised. I haven't heard laughter here, she said, stunned. Me neither. Not in 2 years. They shared a smile, small, real, and she continued reading. Outside, hidden, a figure watched. Pritchard's ranch hand. Storm approaching. Blizzard imminent. The blizzard raged outside, whipping snow against the unfinished cabin walls, drifts piling at the edges. Inside, Clara and Jacob moved with practiced efficiency, securing beams, stacking wood, adjusting the tarp over the roof frame. Silence ruled between them, punctuated only by the rhythmic hammering and the occasional gust rattling the canvas. The storm seemed endless, but neither faltered. Jacob paused to wipe sweat and snow from his brow. This wind's going to last until morning, he said. She nodded, keeping the board steady. Her fingers were red, chapped, but steady. Snow dusted their shoulders, melting into soaked patches on their clothing. Thomas used to drink, she said, voice low. Started after we lost our first baby. Got mean when he drank. Jacob's hammering slowed. He kept his back to her, listening. That night, he came home drunk. Yelled about cold supper, about me being useless. Knocked the lamp over. I tried to save him, she whispered, voice shaking. Even after everything I tried, but the fire. Town decided I must have wanted him dead. Easier to blame the scarred woman than admit their church deacon beat his wife. Jacob set down the hammer, eyes thoughtful. My wife wanted everything I couldn't give her. Status, excitement. I knew she was unhappy, but I kept hoping the ranch would be enough. He stared at the snow-dusted mountains through the open frame. When she died, first thought, I'm free. Been hating myself ever since. Maybe God gives what we can't keep so we learn what we actually need. Maybe, Clara murmured. Or maybe God's just quieter than preachers claim, Jacob said, picking up a new beam. The snow intensified, thick flakes whipping sideways. Jacob squinted. We need to stop. Blizzard's coming. You should go before it gets worse. Too late, Clara said firmly. He secured the tarp over the roof. I'm staying the night. Her face went blank. One blanket. We'll manage. Night fell in an icy haze. The wind howled, rattling the canvas, whipping against the cabin's half-finished walls. They huddled near the fire, shoulders brushing. Not touching deliberately, but warmth passed between them, subtle and grounding. Clara retrieved the tattered, water-stained book. Do you read? She asked. Barely, Jacob admitted. I could teach you, she offered. I'd like that. She opened the book and began reading aloud Homer's Odyssey. Her voice carried, soft but steady, bringing life to ancient words. Jacob listened intently, letting each syllable penetrate, each line pull him away from the cold outside and the memories that haunted him. Somewhere around midnight, fatigue claimed Clara, and her head tilted against his shoulder. Jacob froze, afraid to move, afraid to wake her. At dawn she stirred. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. Neither moved away. Then Jacob's gaze shifted to the doorway. No door yet. Fresh horse tracks circled the cabin in the snow. Someone had been here watching them. The footprints disappeared into the trees. Jacob's hand instinctively moved to the axe at his side. Outside, 3 riders emerged from the pines, men led by Preacher Whitmore, cloaked against the snow. Jacob moved to Clara's side, body close enough to shield, presence assertive. Town had come calling, uninvited and unwelcome. 2 weeks passed, the storm leaving a hushed white blanket over the land. The cabin neared completion, door hung, window sealed, chimney drawing smoke. Clara plastered gaps while Jacob fitted shutters outside. He hummed, a soft tune that filled the silence that had reigned over the clearing. The first real music these woods had known. Their rhythm deepened, one anticipating the other's needs. Words became rarer than gestures, but understanding grew. You mentioned reading, Jacob said one noon, hands resting on a beam. What else you got? Clara produced 3 more books. Shakespeare, Whitman, a well-worn Bible, Survivors of Fire. Read to me again tonight, she said. If you'll help me understand your cattle accounts. I'm good with numbers. That afternoon, a messenger arrived with supplies from town. He wouldn't meet Clara's eyes, dropped crates and left. A note pinned to a flour sack. Offer still stands. Honest work for honest woman. Leave the arrangement. Jacob crumpled the note, jaw tight. Pritchard. Clara's voice quiet. The one who wanted me. She returned to reading aloud by firelight. Her voice turned Penelope's suitor pompous. Jacob laughed, a deep, genuine sound, surprised at his own joy. I haven't heard laughter here, Clara said, stunned. Me neither. Not in 2 years. Their shared smile was small, fleeting, but real. Outside in the tree line, a figure observed silently. Pritchard's ranch hand taking notes. The storm continued to build. Blizzard coming fast, unstoppable. Mid-December arrived with 3 days of fury. Wind screamed against the cabin. Snow drifts piling higher than the windows. Clara and Jacob huddled inside, raising voices to be heard over the howl. Every joint, beam, nail, tested, holding against the wrath of winter. Your work's good, Clara said, admiration in her frost-bitten voice. Our work, Jacob corrected, eyes on the structure. They settled into domestic rhythm. Long hours of reading, mending, teaching, touching briefly but with care. Hands brushed as Jacob taught her to braid rope, and Clara flinched not once. The second night, she awoke screaming. Clara. Jacob was across the room instantly, hands visible, unthreatening. You're safe. You're here. Sweat dampened her hair and clothes. I dreamed I was burning again, she whispered. Thomas holding me down. He's gone. He can't hurt you. Her voice broke. I hate that I'm still afraid to be touched, to trust anyone close. Jacob sat on the floor beside her, careful to keep space. When Sarah died, first thought, relief. That makes me a coward? No, makes you human. I haven't touched another person beyond handshakes in 2 years, he admitted. Afraid of what it might mean. Afraid I'd mess it up again. They sat silence thick. 2 broken souls learning the same lesson. Not alone anymore. The third night, exhaustion overcame tension. Clara fell asleep, leaning against his shoulder while he read haltingly from her book. He stayed motionless until dawn, careful, protective, afraid to shatter the fragile trust between them. Morning arrived, light creeping through half-finished walls. Clara stirred, aware of where she was, met Jacob's gaze. I'm sorry, she started. Don't be, he murmured. You smell like pine smoke, she said, half asleep. And safety. You feel like home, he whispered back. Outside, the world lay buried in snow. The storm had passed, leaving cold clarity. For the first time in weeks, the land felt theirs. Yet fresh horse tracks near the cabin reminded them. Their privacy had always been an illusion. Someone had watched, someone still lingered. Clara insisted on accompanying Jacob to town for supplies. "I'm tired of hiding," she said. "Town's not kind to you." "Then they can be unkind to my face," he replied. Elkridge lay 20 miles south, a cluster of wooden buildings around a church and general store. They arrived Sunday morning as services ended. Clara walked beside Jacob, chin up, scar visible in sunlight. Conversation ceased. Women clutched children. Men stared. Preacher Whitmore blocked the mercantile steps, flanked by Amos Pritchard and 3 elders. "Brother Morgan," the preacher's voice carried, "this woman is known for sin. You defile her and yourself with this arrangement." Crowds gathered, murmurs rising. Pritchard stepped forward, oily smile fixed. "Clara, my offer stands. Honest work at my boarding house. Save both your reputations and this." The trap closed. Public accusation, social pressure, weight of judgment. Panic rose in Jacob. Old instincts to avoid scandal, protect his name. "It's just work," he said. The words froze in the cold air. Clara went rigid beside him. Just work. All the shared nights, laughter, trust, reduced to nothing. Pritchard's smile widened. "Even he knows you're not worth defending, Clara." She walked to the wagon, silent, expression unreadable. Ride home was long, unbroken by speech. At her cabin, she dismounted. "Don't come back," she said. Cabin finished. Contract done. Door closed in his face. Jacob sat in the wagon, snow beginning to fall again. Realizing fully, he'd chosen reputation over truth, and this time destroyed something real. Christmas week arrived cold and clear. Jacob Morgan sat alone in his ranch house. Whiskey untouched on the table. Eyes fixed on frost-glazed windows that framed his wife's grave on the hill. The house was warm, solid, empty as a church. He felt the old weight of cowardice pressing down. Once again, he had chosen appearance over truth, convenience over courage. Clara had offered him real honesty, raw and scarred, and he had reduced it to just work in front of people whose opinions ultimately meant nothing. Drinking wouldn't fix it. 3 miles away, Clara worked alone in the soft glow of lamplight. The final details of her cabin demanded her attention. Barn door, garden fence, minor repairs. Her hands moved automatically, but her mind was numb, churning with bitter awareness. She should have known better than to hope. Men always disappointed, even good ones, and especially good ones because their betrayals cut deepest. Christmas morning brought an unexpected sight. On her doorstep, a small bundle. Wildflowers frozen in ice, delicate and bright as preserved memories. No note, no explanation, just the silent testament that someone had thought of her. She carried them inside, tears streaming freely. That afternoon, Samuel Reed rode up to Jacob's ranch. The old man, 70 years hardened by wind and sun, sat high in the saddle, weathered as leather. "You look like hell," Samuel said, voice rough. "Feel worse," Jacob admitted. "Good," Samuel said sharply. "That woman built more with broken hands than most men manage with whole ones. Your wife wanted pretty. This one wants real. You going to let fear win twice? What if she won't forgive me?" Jacob asked quietly. "Then you earned it. But you still gotta try. Or die alone in that cold bed you're making." Samuel rode off, leaving Jacob standing in the empty yard. He gazed at Sarah's grave. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Sorry I couldn't be what you needed. Sorry I couldn't love you the way you wanted." Then he inhaled sharply. "I'm done apologizing for wanting something real." Jacob saddled his horse and rode to town. Sunday morning, the church doors opened to a packed congregation. Clara was on the roof of her cabin when hoofbeats sounded, her final shingles hammering. The morning air. Jacob appeared below, dismounting with calm determination. She didn't stop working, didn't acknowledge him, letting him climb the ladder silently beside her. They worked together in focused silence for an hour. The roof was completed under their joint effort. The last piece of the cabin they had built together. Sitting on the ridge, breathing hard, Jacob finally spoke. "I stood in front of the whole congregation this morning, told them everything." He looked at the mountains, recounted his cowardice, admitted calling their shared work just work. Told them Clara was worth 10 of their so-called decent folk. Clara remained silent, waiting. "I said, if they want to judge someone, judge me. You built a life from ash while they threw stones." He turned to her, earnest eyes meeting hers. "I'm not good with words. Clara had that proven Sunday last. But I'm good with my hands and I'm trying to be good with my heart. What are you asking? She finally said. Jacob swallowed. Let me build a life with you. Not pretty, not fancy, just honest. She studied him, gray-streaked hair, weathered face, eyes that finally saw her clearly. I don't need rescuing, she said slowly. Never did. I know, but I wouldn't mind a partner. Equal share, equal say, he replied. He extended his hand. Deal. This time when they shook, he pulled her close, seeking permission with his gaze first. She nodded. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, perfect. A sound interrupted them. On the horizon, dust rose, wagons approaching. What's that? Clara asked. Town families, he said. After my sermon, some folks felt ashamed. They're bringing lumber, tools, food. Our barn, she corrected. They climbed down as the first wagon reached the clearing. Families with children, men with tools, women with baskets of food. Preacher Whitmore came forward, awkward, apologetic. Pritchard slunk past, head lowered, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The community that had judged them came now to rebuild. Clara stood beside Jacob, watching. Something she had thought lost forever returned, a sense of belonging. Late March brought the first true spring day. Clara awoke in the completed cabin. Sunlight streaming through windows Jacob had fitted with care. He slept in the chair by the banked fire. The man she had watched silently each night, now present in quiet companionship, respecting. Her space, courting patiently, she observed him, peaceful, face softened by the sunlight. He stirred, met her eyes, smiled. Morning. Morning, she whispered. They cooked breakfast together. Eggs from her new chickens, bread she had baked, coffee brought from town. Easy partnership, comfortable silence, hands working in harmony. Outside the garden waited, soil soft and spring ready. Together they planted carrots, beans, potatoes, and wildflowers at the edges because Clara wanted color. Hands intertwined in labor and planning. They built a tangible future. Around noon, Pritchard approached, hat in hand, cautious. Miss Brennan, Mr. Morgan, he began. I came to apologize. I misjudged. You didn't misjudge, Clara interrupted calmly. You couldn't see past surfaces. Simple as that. I hope there are no hard feelings. There aren't, but there's no business either. Good day, Mr. Pritchard. Evening arrived soft and golden. They sat on the porch Jacob had built, watching the mountains turn purple in the fading light. Marry me, Jacob said quietly. When you're ready, she replied. Could be tomorrow. Could be years. I'm not going anywhere. Clara took his hand. Ask me when the wildflowers bloom full. I want to say yes when the world's alive again. Deal. They watched the first stars appear, silence stretching comfortably between them. The cabin stood solid behind every beam, nail, every shared labor moment visible in its walls. The barn rose beside it, garden holding seeds of future harvests. You're beautiful, Jacob said. Clara touched her scar, smiling slightly. I'm scarred. Same thing. Way I see it shows you fought in one. Night fell completely. Firelight glowed warmly through the cabin windows. In the meadow, early wildflowers pushed through the grass, small, determined, reaching toward spring. Pretty fades like summer paint. Fancy breaks under winter wind, but honest builds a life that holds. And in that holding, broken things don't just mend, they become stronger. The mountains stood ancient and patient. The cowboy and the scarred woman sat on their porch, quietly building tomorrow, one small sacred moment at a time. Winter deepened, but Clara and Jacob's life settled into a rhythm of labor and trust. Snow lay thick across the meadow, icicles hung from roof beams, and the wind still whispered against the cabin. Yet inside there was warmth, a fire, of shared effort, of something far more fragile and precious, a sense of home. Their mornings began with the familiar cadence of preparation, feeding chickens, tending the small garden, chopping wood, then moved to the heavy work of barn construction or cabin repairs. Each strike of hammer, each measured cut of timber, each turn of soil became a language they shared without needing words. Evenings held softer intimacies. Clara read aloud, voice carrying across the cabin, Jacob listening, learning the curves of language and rhythm. He mended tools, braided rope, and she guided him with patience and care. Their hands brushed often and no one flinched. The scar on her face, once a symbol of town gossip and judgment, had become part of the story he now loved. It marked survival, endurance, and strength, a truth he revered more than any beauty untested by life. One night, a fierce storm arrived without warning. Wind screamed and snow piled against the cabin walls in relentless drifts. Clara awoke, heart hammering, sweat damp against cold skin. Thomas, she dreamt, holding her down in flames. Jacob was instantly at her side, hands visible, careful not to crowd her. "You're safe. You're here." The fires banked. The storm roared beyond canvas and timber, but inside, they huddled together with a single blanket, breathing in unison, sharing warmth, sharing trust. The next morning the storm had passed. They emerged to a transformed world. White silence over every slope, every tree, every meadow. The cabin, barn, and garden stood steadfast. Proof of their labor, their patience, their endurance. Jacob looked over the tracks in the snow. Someone had been here. Their privacy had never been complete. Yet now it felt less threatening, as if the land itself bore witness to their triumphs and failures alike. Spring arrived slowly. Early sunlight filtered through thawing clouds, casting warm tones on fresh green shoots in the garden. Clara awoke to light across the cabin floor. Jacob asleep in the chair, the fire banked to a low glow. Their shared glances held unspoken acknowledgement. The past winter had tested them, but it had not broken them. Together they moved through the day in partnership, preparing breakfast, tending chickens, coaxing vegetables from the thawing soil, planting wildflowers along the edges for color, for hope. Town's gossip faded like snow in sunlight. Pritchard approached, hat in hand, apologetic, humbled by the season's proof that work, honesty, and resilience mattered more than appearances. Clara cut him short, calm and sure. "You couldn't see past surfaces. That's all. Good day." He left, dismissed, powerless now to influence or intimidate. The community, once distant and judgmental, returned in small ways. Wagons delivering lumber for the barn, neighbors offering tools, baskets of fresh food. Their support was quiet, respectful, earned by labor, endurance, and integrity. Clara and Jacob worked alongside them. But it was clear, the life they had built was theirs alone. Solid in foundation, honest in its construction, scarred and beautiful all at once. By late March, warmth settled fully across the valley. The cabin windows framed blooms of early wildflowers, colors unfurling from tender shoots. They sat on the porch each evening, watching the sky shift from gold to purple, the mountains standing eternal witnesses to their perseverance. Jacob's hand found hers often, their fingers intertwining in simple companionship, in shared gratitude for survival and renewal. "Marry me," Jacob whispered one evening, voice quiet but unwavering. "When you're ready," Clara replied, steady, calm. "Could be tomorrow, could be years. I'm not going anywhere." Clara touched his hand, agreement unspoken but understood. "Ask me when the wildflowers bloom full," she said. "I'll say yes when the world is alive again." "Deal," he said. And they waited, watching, breathing, existing together in the slow unfolding of a life rebuilt from ash. The cabin, barn, and garden held visible proof of their shared labor. Every beam, every nail, every careful stroke of effort was a testament to endurance, resilience, and honesty. The early wildflowers pushed through the soil, small and determined, reaching toward the spring sun. Pretty fades, fancy falters, but honest work builds a life that endures. Night settled softly. Firelight glowed through the cabin windows, casting warmth over faces lined with effort and hope. In the meadow, early wildflowers dotted the snow-melted grass. Delicate yet determined, honest labor had forged more than structures. It had forged trust, companionship, and love that would endure the seasons. Jacob and Clara sat on the porch, side by side, shoulders brushing lightly, gazing at the mountains. Together they had built tomorrow, one quiet, deliberate, unyielding moment at a time. Scars, losses, betrayals, they had survived them all. And in surviving, they had discovered something stronger, truer than any fleeting beauty or easy convenience. A life built on honesty, shared effort, and enduring love. The mountains watched, silent and patient, as the cowboy and the scarred woman held their place in the world, steadfast, resilient, and together. Spring's first blooms nodded in the wind, small witnesses to a love as solid and enduring as the cabin itself.